If you've ever put together your own stereo or home theater system, you may have noticed that your components have the tendency to generate quite a bit of heat. In fact, some receivers can get downright hot, which could shorten the life of your expensive gear. That's why today we're going to be talking about the best solution we know of to keep your equipment running cool and looking good. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then stick around and we'll get into it right after the intro. Alright, so if you watched our recent rack build video, you probably already know that we went with some AC Infinity rack mounted fans and power strips for our rack build, and we'll talk about how we set those up a little later in the video. But first, we want to quickly talk about AC Infinity and some of the cooling gear that we've been using for the last couple of years to keep our equipment running cool. Not only do they make rack mounted equipment, but they're probably better known for their Aircom component cooling fans. AC Infinity offers a lot of different options, starting with their basic USB fans, like the ones we have here on top of our processor, which can be had for as little as $26, all the way up to their high-end Aircom and CloudPlate series, like the ones we'll be talking about today. Another unit that we've been really happy with from AC Infinity is their Aircom S6 Cooler. We use this to cool our processor in our living room, which is actually pretty affordable as well, coming in at about $50. This unit is really nice because it exhausts out the back and removes all of the hot air from our enclosed entertainment center. Moving on from the Aircom S6, as you go up in price, you also get better features like digital displays, temperature probes, and intelligent fan control. And as we mentioned before, these are probably the AC Infinity fans that most of you are familiar with. But they also make great rack-mounted options as well, and that's why we're going to be transitioning over to our rack so you guys can see how we set that up. Alright, so these are the CloudPlate T7Ns, and the N stands for intake. We went with all intakes because, as we mentioned in our rack build, this is an open rack, so we just want to push the air across our components. If this was a closed rack, we would probably set it up so we have a few intakes on the bottom and at least one exhaust on the top. Each one of these comes with 4 fans, as you can probably see, and they're rated from 10 to 36 dB, so 10 dB at the lowest setting and up to 36 dB at the highest setting. There's 6 different settings. We set ours at 1, the first setting, which is the quietest, and they seem to move plenty of air at that level. If you were going to put these in another room or in like a server rack, you can set them all the way up to 6, and these move some serious air. At level 1, they move 50 CFM, and at level 6, they move 220. And each level in between obviously increases up to 220 CFM. I don't recommend doing that because at 220, they're pretty loud. You're going to hear them if you're in the same room. At level 1, you can hear them, but they're not annoying. That's how I feel about it. Some people, if you can hear anything while they watch a movie, they don't like it. So that's going to kind of determine where you're putting it. If you have a separate room or a closet that you're putting your rack in, that's going to be totally up to you. But even at level 1, if you're right up next to them, they are noticeable. You can hear them a little bit. Again, like I said, they don't bother me at all. As far as the fans go in this unit, they have dual ball bearings, and AC Infinity claims that they'll last up to 67,000 hours. So take that for what you will, from the manufacturer, but judging by the looks and the quality of these units, I tend to agree that they'll probably last a long time. And looking at build quality, these things are made super nice. They're all aluminum. The front is machined brushed aluminum that's black anodized. And that's one thing that I really liked about these is they match all my components almost perfectly. A lot of the other units that I looked at were more for server racks, and they're made out of steel, and they look okay, but I just wanted something that stood out and showed off my equipment, and I think the AC Infinity cloud plates do that really well. Another thing I really like about these cloud plates is the included power cord and thermal probe cord that are 6 feet long, which makes it a lot easier to route the cables and get them to where you need them to go so you can hook them up without any problems. I also want to mention that AC Infinity also includes some very high quality cage nuts and screws with the cloud plates. The reason why I say they're high quality is because they're made with carbon steel, and they include Teflon washers as opposed to a lot of the cheaper screws that just come with plastic, and they'll crush and actually scratch your equipment over time. Okay, so with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and quickly show you how I set mine up in my rack. And of course, this is going to differ a little depending on your situation. So the first thing I want to show you is that these panels dim. So right now it's dimmed. And I don't think there's an adjustment for how far they dim, but you can, once you see, you push that and they brighten up. Or you can push it again and turn it off all the way. So if that's annoying to you while you're watching a movie, you can turn them off. As soon as you push a button, they come back on. The first thing you see here is auto. So that is controlled by this top button, and that changes the modes. So you have auto and smart. That sets your fan speeds. Ours is set at 1. Let me go back and show you that. This is your speed set to 1. Okay, so next is alarm, and you can set these, that's this number here, you can set that, that'll come on at 100 degrees. I've actually never had these turn on because my settings are always lower for the fans to turn on. But if it gets to 100, an audible alarm will go off and let you know that, hey, it's not cooling enough, you need to do something. Next, we have the buffer. So what the buffer is it's 2 degrees from your set. So I have this set to come on at 95 degrees, and it will go down 2 degrees and then turn off. Once it gets up to that 95 again, it'll just keep doing that, and it'll just keep cycling. So what I don't want 2 degrees. I actually want that higher. So I'm going to go over here. These are your setting buttons, and I'm going to change that to 6. That's where I have all my others set. So now it'll drop the temperature down to 89 degrees, and then the fans will turn off. Once it hits 95 again, it'll come back on. So the buffer means that your fan isn't sitting there cycling on and off constantly. So as I mentioned, these are the up and down. Pretty basic, just for whenever you're adjusting anything in the panel. And that's pretty much it. Once you have it all set, I move that setting back to auto, and I leave all of mine on auto. And then, as I said, after a certain amount of time, this will dim down. I don't mind the light that comes off them. It doesn't bother me. So, but as I said, if you wanted to, you could just turn that off. And that's pretty much it for the setup. It's really easy, and the manual does a really good job showing you how to set this up. So yeah, they've been working perfectly since I got them. And I honestly don't know how I managed to get by without these as long as I have. And it's really nice. It's a really nice assurance that your equipment is going to last as long as possible, knowing that it's going to get cooled off whenever it hits a certain temperature. Now, looking at the back of the unit, you have your power input, your input for your thermal probe, which we used on every one of these. You just basically put that on top of whatever piece of equipment you're trying to cool, and that'll monitor the temperature and give direct feedback to the unit. And also you have the ability with an expansion port of hooking another unit up and using that as a secondary unit. So basically you can control both units from one unit, which we tried doing that at first, and I didn't really like the way it worked out because the secondary unit's display kept turning off, and I didn't care for that. So I went ahead and I hooked up each one of them individually, and I feel like for me that was the best way to do it. All right, so I just quickly want to go over a few other things that AC Infinity was nice enough to send over to us to check out. And first off, we have these really nice brushed aluminum blanks. And what I like about these is they're really not that expensive. They're about the same price as a steel blank. So, for just maybe $1 more, you're getting some really heavy-duty aluminum that also matches the cloud plates and the rest of the equipment. I much prefer that over just the steel blanks. They also sent over these really nice Tesla Core A1 power distribution units. And again, these are brushed aluminum, really high quality. They have, I believe this is silk screened in, the AC Infinity and the ground, all those letters are silk screened. You also get an on-off button and a 15 amp breaker. Now, some of these, in the more industrial looking ones, they'll actually have a plug on the front. I didn't need that, and I don't like the way that looks personally. I'm not knocking anybody that uses those. I just wanted this to be as clean looking as possible. So that's why I really preferred the looks of the AC Infinity power distribution units. These are roughly $75 each, which isn't too bad. I mean, I've seen just regular units that are metal that cost more than that. Pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, these have 8 plugs in the back. So you have 8 outlets on the back. And like I said, they're all on a breaker. And I have these hooked into 20 amp circuits. And the cord that comes with these is 15 feet long. So there's no problem with getting them where you need them to go. And that's pretty much it. I really like the AC Infinity stuff. I appreciate them sending this stuff out to us. We've been using AC Infinity stuff for years, so I already knew they made quality stuff. But this stuff is just, to me, it's some of the best rack mount stuff you can get. If you're interested in buying any of this stuff, we'll put links down in the description. We'll also put our promo code to get 15% off. So, you know, you can go to the website and buy whatever you want and get a little extra off. So that's a nice thing. We appreciate them giving that code to us. So that's going to wrap up this video. We appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, let us know and we'll do our best to answer them. And as always, have an awesome day.